What's going on, guys? We are live talking this welcome to the Popecast. This is the new installment of it. I'm very much excited to be diving into this and jumping in fact, because this is something that I've been wanting to definitely do for quite a while. And I've been bringing it back now that I'm officially back. I started this podcast exactly really early in this channel, and it didn't go anywhere because I didn't have my niche yet. I didn't have my audience, but now we are here being able to discuss it because, I got more of you guys here. So it's definitely going to be a fun podcast, guys. Make sure, again, to just hit that like and subscribe button if you guys are new here. If you're catching this on the replay, make sure, again, to hit that like and subscribe button. Smack it if you can, because this is the brand new year for 2020. And if you're joining us in the live chat today, do understand this will also be an impromptu Q&A as well. So make sure to leave a comment down below. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and in general, how you guys rank this list. And I will be taking viewer questions every kind of probably 5 to 6 minutes. I'll be taking them. Any super chats will be read like that right away. And if you can, again, make sure to share this, comment. It really does help the channel quite a bit. Now, I already see Jaren Talks Movies. Yo. I'm so pumped for this video. I'm pumped as well, man. This is going to be a very fun one. Movie Kid 99 is here. Hello to you. And we will start getting people in here. Driscoll Brothers, what's up, man? Hey, we're just about to do this ranking. And I do want to give a shout out to all my Patreon members. If you are a Patreon, do understand I give you shout outs. I want to be right there for you. And in a sense, if you're trying to start your own YouTube channel, it's kind of a 24-hour hotline. You message me, I'm going to get back to you and let you know. So again, as you guys are joining, make sure to know that I will be doing a live Q&A during this every Popecast, since this is the first one of my rebooted type of it. I will be doing Q&As throughout each and every one of these. I'm planning on doing each of these live, while at the same time understanding that we'll still be doing the topics and whatnot. And I wanted to do this topic necessarily because I didn't know what people wanted to talk about. And I thought it would be fun because I've been wanting to do this video where I rank the years 2010 through 2019 in this decade of film, because last decade was quite unique, and I think we got a lot of different type of things in there. I see there's a greeting from Norway, greeting to you, and I see many other people in here. But before, let me get to my Patreon. Let me give them a shout out real fast. We got Alex Comstad, Andy Funk, Ashley Peschel, Donnie Newber, Jaron Williams, Jed Elias, Justin Watches Movies, Mary Lou, Rachel Wagner, Sandwich on Films, and Susan Oakes, and of course, as well as Jordan Morgan. These are all great people. They're all great Patreon members, and if you guys want to find out their links, some of them do have YouTube channels. They're in the description down below as well. So thank you guys again so much for watching this. And it means a lot that you guys are joining me for this first time from just watching this as the Popecast and seeing how it forms. We'll be having different sets, doing different type of things. Doing this more a little bit laid back in my chair, getting to relax and whatnot. And again, I will be taking your guys' questions later in the show. So let's get started with this ranking. And again, I see there's someone else from Ireland here. Happy to have you. Samuel's also here from Italy. The fact that people all around the world watch this channel is just fascinating. And 2020 is going to be a big year. So let's start this list. So we're going to be ranking the decades. Now, I'm going to be pretty positive on this list, though, because I didn't want to pick out shitty movies, because necessarily that's not fun to talk about shitty movies all the time. I want to talk about the positivities of this decade and why there's so many. And Donnie Newber, hello from Arizona. I've met you before, son. So it's going to be a fun list. We got 10 years to talk about, and coming in down at the bottom of my list is going to be 2011, which is my number 10. Now, there were fantastic movies like Warrior and 50-50, two of my personal favorites from there. And there were some of my favorites because of, 50-50 is something that Jonathan Levine does so well as a director, is being able to direct a film while at the same time making it feel real. The comedy elements might go crazy at times, but they still feel real. And that's something that I wanted to bring about into this style of, in a sense, it's something that I love for my comedies. And anything Jonathan Levine has directed, besides Snatched, I think that was it, Snatched, or the one with Amy Schumer was very, very bad. I'll be letting this, and I see someone's asking, can I do a quick run back on where you are? I just started the ranking on my number 10, which is number 20, which is 2011. Warrior's a very underrated film of the decade. It almost made my top 25 of the decade, like this close. Really much appreciated that whole entire thing, and I loved it. And someone said, do not forget Your Next. Did Your Next come out that year? Because if it is, That is a brilliant film as well, and that film did come out in 2011, so thank you so much for reminding me. It is a fantastic movie. I love Your Next. It's one of my favorite horror films. It almost made my top 10 horror films of the decade as well. But another great noticeable one in here was Drive. I love, love, love Drive. I love what they did in there. Super 8, Moneyball, great movies in there. Bridesmaids, which was a comedy that I didn't expect to love, but I liked. First Class was the X-Men. It's still my personal favorite X-Men movie. I'm not including Logan and Deadpool in there, but as an X-Men movie, that is my personal favorite. Perks of Being a Wallflower, no, that's from a different list. Sorry. Limitless was fun. Contagion was fun. The Artist was fun. Kung Fu Panda. I mean, really, what an underrated film that is as well. You also got First Class, or I already mentioned First Class, but you have great films all in that entirety, and films that really stuck with me as the years went on. And kind of just going through, we also got the Deathly Hallows Part 2, the great finale there. The reason that this is down on my list, though, is when it comes to films that I've come out to rewatch multiple times throughout the year, it really does come about that this wasn't a lot of these films aren't the ones that I love to rewatch. Even though I might love some of them, they're also some of the weakest. But it is cool to see that Thor. I mean, Thor came out this year. The Planet of the Apes trilogy started this year. Super 8 was really good. Horrible Bosses was a funny comedy. The Hangover Part 2 is personally my favorite Hangover movie. Source Code, I cannot keep expressing Source Code and how good that movie is. Sucker Punch. A lot of people don't like that movie. I kind of like it. It's good for a background movie. Cars 2. Not good. Not good at all. Transformers Dark of the Moon, my third favorite Transformers movie. The Thing remake was fine. Attack on the Block is good. Crazy Stupid Love also came out this year. A Tree Life came out that year. I think it's a little overrated. Sorry. Hana came out that year. You know, there are a lot of good movies, but the thing is that, again, this is the one year that felt the weakest to me when I was picking my top 25 of the decade, and it's one of the ones that truly didn't stick with me the most. And again, I see there are 17 of you guys in here and only 7 likes. Let's get those likes up, guys. Big thumbs up there. So, moving into my number 9 is going to actually be 2012. Now, 2012 was a fantastic year for film as well. But again, it comes down to the same thing as rewatchability. And that's where I come down to in that whole entirety. Now, Looper is in this year, one of my favorite films of the decade as well. The Master is actually a movie I haven't seen yet, but I've heard it has one of the best performances of this decade within Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Skyfall is probably the second best James Bond movie. Argo, Go Fuck Yourself is such a great movie in that whole, in fact, and I really was happy when it won Best Picture that year. Life of Pi is a great movie. The first Avengers came out that year, the culmination, everything. There was actually quite a few good comic book movies this year as well, whether it was the Avengers, the Dark Knight Rises, which I'm in the minority, but I really like the Dark Knight Rises. And CD just asked, is 2011 number 10? 2011 is number 10, 2012 is number 9. Amazing Spider-Man as well. I think it's a pretty underrated Spider-Man movie. The first Hunger Games came out. That was fine. 21 Jump Street was one of my favorite comedies of the decade. Looper, again. Oh, man, I should have grabbed some water for this. Safe House was a little fun one. It's kind of fun diving back through this and seeing what films came out over this decade because there are so many great ones. Ted was a funny comedy. Frankenweenie was a very underrated animated film. Django Unchained came out that year, one of my favorites as well. Beast of the Southern Wild, I freaking think that's a very underrated movie, and I'm excited to see the director's new film, Wendy, at Sundance. Zero Dark 30, good movie in that part. Silver Linings Playbook, one of my favorite films of all time, is in this year. Lawless was good. There's a lot of good movies. Even when you look at Prometheus, which I know a lot of people shit on, I love Prometheus. I love what it does in its whole entirety. Flight was a good movie. That's My Boy. Going back to that, actually, that movie there's a lot of fun elements in there because I wasn't 18 at the time and it was an R-rated movie. Me and my friend really wanted to see it, so we snuck into the theater and we got kicked out like 5 minutes in. It kind of sucked in that part, so I actually never got to see That's My Boy. The Hunt's a good movie. Mud. The Dictator, I think, is a very underrated comedy. Wreck-It Ralph is a great. The Sinister. So there's something about Sinister that's funny is I absolutely don't care about this movie anymore because I thought the second one ruined everything about it. Paranormal Activity 4, this was not a good year for horror, though. When you look at horror, not a good year for horror at all. I'm kind of just scrolling through. The Pact was good. Woman in Black was fine. Prometheus was, I guess you can count it as a horror film. Possession was not good. The Paranormal Activity 4 was not good. The Devil Inside was not good. Silent Hill Revelations was not good. Not good in there. Moonrise Kingdom did come out this year, though, and that was a fantastic, another good film. John Carter was a very underrated. Rise of the Guardians was an underrated. The 5-Year Engagement was funny. Think Like a Man was funny. This Means War is one of my most underrated guilty pleasures. There are some good ones in when it comes down to 2012, but not ones that stuck with me to where I want to watch them every year. And I do want to throw in, guys. I'm going to go to my number 8 in a little bit, but I want to throw in that if you guys have any live questions and answers or Q&As, that's kind of the best thing about the Popecast, is I do it live so I can answer some questions for you guys. So make sure, again, to comment into the live chat and let me know some of the questions that you want answered. And, of course, guys, if you guys are new here, make sure to, again, smack that like and subscribe button if you're watching this on the replay, and comment down below and let me know how you would rank this decade of film. So let's go over to 13 now. 13, which comes in, well, not even 2013. My number 8 is going to come out to be 2018. Now, 2018 was actually a really good year for film, but this was actually one of the years that was quite easy for me to make a top 10 list from that year. Just kind of going over some of my favorites. Spider-Verse came out this year. Annihilation, Hereditary, The Favorite, Beale Street, Game Night, Suspiria, Mandy, Bumblebee were some of my favorites of the year. Black Klansman kind of won me over. A Quiet Place. But also, this was the year, for some reason, that it didn't stick too much for me. I thought it had one of the weakest Best Picture winners, which is Green Book, which I still liked a lot, but I thought it was kind of a weak one in that. Roma was one of the best films ever made. But when you look at, like, say, The Meg, The Nun, films that kind of just didn't win me over, Strangers Pray at Night, Insidious, The Last Key, Slender Man, all those movies didn't really truly work for me. But then you also go to the romances of this year. This was a great romanced year, and Crazy Rich Asians, Cold War, beautiful films, especially Cold War. If you didn't get to see Cold War, that is an excellent movie in its whole entirety and one of my favorites from this decade. Love, Simon was a big surprise. Widows, I loved the shit out of. Beale Street was a great romance. A Star is Born, you can't even forget about A Star is Born, one of my favorite movies from that year. The rest kind of sucked, but 50 Shades Freed ended that year, so that's a big thing. Searching was a great mystery. A Simple Favor, I thought was a little bit overrated. Game Night was one of my favorite comedies and one of my favorite films of this decade. Hereditary was quite a unique experience at that. Suspiria's remake came out, a film that I actually prefer over the original. Bad Times at the El Royale was a little nice of a little thing to that as well. The Little Strangers was a little bit underrated. Happy Time Murder was a disappointment. You know, it's tough because every year comes out with so many fascinating films. And 2018, maybe on down the road, it could appear to me. But, you know, when I do look at this year, my top 5 favorites, like kind of just looking back right now, is Spider-Verse, Avengers Infinity War, Annihilation, A Star is Born, and honestly, I would have moved A Quiet Place up there. That was a great film. Can You Ever Forgive Me was underrated. It's a great year for film. And I think actually in this decade, a lot of these films were great, but some of the other years kind of marinated with me a little bit more. And since it's only been like 2 years since 2018, which is crazy to think, it's only been 2 years from 2018. It's nice in that whole entirety, and there are a lot of good elements and a lot of good movies to this list. And one that I wanted to talk about really fast was The Favorite, a movie that Yorgos Lanthimos, I was so excited when it got a bunch of nominations, and I was surprised, to say the least, that it didn't win everything that I wanted it to, but at the same time, I found that to be my favorite film of his, especially on rewatches, and that definitely should have made my favorite of that year. Going into the live chat, we got Muppets 2011 is my favorite. That is a good one. I remember Arcanite says, I remember when my mom took me to the Avengers when I was 7, and honestly, I think it's a big reason why I love cinema today. Avengers is a great movie. I saw it like 5 times in theaters with my friend that year. Before we had cars and stuff, his mom would drop us off at the mall with money in hand, and we would just go see a movie almost every single day. And that was kind of like the hit spot to kind of do. Looper and Skyfall are going to be my faves of 2012. Those are good ones. Moonrise Kingdom is my fave of 2012. That's a great one. Jumping into the one that I'm in right now, my number 8, which is 2018. Mission Impossible was my fave. Fallout was an excellent. It's one of the best action films of this decade. Organized. So my mom and I watched The Last Black Man in San Francisco yesterday, and I thought it was really fascinating. I loved her directing. I feel like maybe we were too white to get everything it tried to show. I don't think race has to do anything with that. I think maybe, but I loved it. It's just not a film that makes me want to go back to it anytime soon. Connor Diaz, do you prefer Moonlight or Beale Street? I actually prefer Beale Street a lot more. And Jaron Talks Movies asks, would you say you liked Hereditary or Midsummer more? I liked Midsummer more, especially, I've watched Midsummer more too. There's something about Midsummer that really sticks with me, and I feel more attached and able to relate more to that film in a weird and odd way. Spider-Verse, my favorite film from 2018. It was a great movie. Mission Impossible Fallout is amazing. It is. And Edie Alexandra, or can't, sorry. Uh, Alexander 80, your opinion on the Final Destination franchise. They're fun. Those are movies that me and my friends love to watch countless times throughout the years, and it was one of the ones that we just watched constantly. I think our favorite one, though, was the first or the third one. Those are the ones that we kind of watched the most. Now, guys, I'm going to be going back to my list. I will be answering more questions in a little bit, so make sure to leave them down below. And if you do a super chat, I'm going to answer it right away. So, going into my number 7 next will happen to be, drum roll please, it'll be 2010. Now, this is a weird year for filmmaking. It has some of my favorite films in it, but when it comes down to its whole entirety of what I would have picked, Toy Story 3 is in this year. I love Toy Story 3. One of my favorite films of all time. Inception was my second favorite film of the whole entire decade. The Social Network is incredible, and I remember at the time when in school people would be like, they're making a Facebook movie. Yeah, but it's a great movie. Black Swan, I actually still have not seen. It's on my list to see. Shutter Island is excellent. Another great Scorsese film. Winter's Bone. The start of the How to Train Your Dragon started this year. Kick-Ass was a very underrated comic book film, one of my favorites of the decade. Scott Pilgrim was another great comic book film. The Fighter, Tangled, all great in that entirety. The Town, one of my other favorite films of the decade. You might be wondering, Zach, why is this in your 2017? Well, again, as much as I love these movies, there's other years of film that I felt like were so stacked that it's hard for me not to fall in love with. And also, one of the reasons is I never got to see Black Swan, and maybe that's kind of put a bump this up. But they do also have Easy A in here, another great comedy. She's Out of My League was one of my favorites too. I'm a sucker for romance movies, and I think those all entire work. Insidious started that year, which I actually don't really like the first one. The Crazies was kind of underrated. The Devil was fun. Paranormal Activity 2 was fine. Soft. There was a lot of good ones in here, but the thing is the ones that stick out to me the most are the ones that I just mentioned. And True Grit's also another great one. Legion is actually a really fun guilty pleasure of mine. The Other Guys is a great comedy. Tron 2 came out that year too, and no pun intended on that 2 part. But I love the Tron series. I love what they're able to do with it in all of its entirety. And in general, this is where it gets down to my number 7 is I just felt like it was a good and great year to film with some fascinating and honestly amazing films, some of the best of the decade. I mean, at least 3 of these made my top 25. But it's weird at the same time because I'm going with a gut feeling on this one, and it's one of those ones. And I also want to say, if you don't think Ryan Reynolds is a great actor, I wish he would do more stuff like Buried, because I thought he was fascinating in Buried. That also came out in 2010. Now, moving into my number 6. We're going to my number 6, which is actually 2019 for film. Yes, my number 6 is 2019 for film, which is actually one of the hardest lists for me to have ever made, personally. I thought last year's top 10 list was quite terrible to make because there were so many films I wanted in my top 10. And, Midsummer, Uncut Gems, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Irishman, they all made it in. I wanted Ad Astra in there. Toy Story 4 made it in there. Waves made it in there. But kind of just going over this, you had also Jojo Rabbit was incredible. Marriage Stories was great, didn't make it in my top 10. Queen and Slim, The Lighthouse, Us, Ad Astra, Under the Silver Lake, Shazam. I think this was a great year for comic book films, though. Besides Captain Marvel and Hellboy, I mean, I didn't mind Captain Marvel. I thought it was fine. Hellboy was terrible, but you had Shazam, a very underrated film. Joker is incredible. From a performance-wise, I think the film is a little bit borrows too many elements from the whole Taxi Driver and uh, what's it called? Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. But then you have Midsummer, which I fell in love with. Booksmart was really great. 2019 was also a special year for me, too, because it's the first year that I actually went to a lot of film festivals. I went to South by Southwest for the first time. Absolutely had a fascinating time there, going again this year. Uh, I also went to the Phoenix Film Festival. I also went to the Scottsdale International Film Festival. Got to go to San Diego Comic Con. Really, that was the year that I kind of opened up a little bit more. Godzilla was a great thing. Gemini Man was quite a disappointment as well into this year. Spider-Man Far From Home was great. Detective Pikachu, what a big surprise that one was. Child's Play was surprisingly bad, but I liked it, and well, not surprisingly bad. It was surprisingly enjoyable enough, even though it was not a good movie. Crawl was fun. Rambo was good. I liked it. The third act was awesome. Cold Pursuit, really underrated movie last year. Didn't know what to expect from it. The Farewell was one of my favorites. Fighting with My Family. I thought last year was fascinating and really a stacked year. And maybe again, it's kind of the same thing with 2018. As time goes on, this year might improve more on this list if I were to look back on it. Depending on where films end up and my favorites of the year and whatnot. But as it comes out right now, only I think like when it comes to my favorite films of all time, there are only 3 films from this year of this decade they made it in. Toy Story 4 is up there. Midsummer I'd probably throw even higher up there, and Waves right now. But there's some other ones that could easily move up there. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Farewell are kind of all easing into there. There's some of my favorites of the year, and 2019 was a great year for film, and I was honestly, it's one of the best years in recent memory. It was a very hard thing. Jumping back over to the live chat. Let's see. Going back up. Nobody really talks about The Imitation Game of this decade. You know what's funny? I never even got to see it. I actually really wanted to. It's one of the ones that I need to catch up on. I love Midsummer. Sucked that it won't get Best Picture nomination. Yeah, it's a little bit weird in that part, but if Hereditary didn't get one, I don't see Midsummer getting one. Jaron Talks Movies, very weird. Agree. To me, it's a year I don't even think about being big in film, but then you look at it and there's so much to love. My favorites of the year would have to be Social Network. Absolutely. I mean, and that's what's crazy. Every single year these films come out, there are a bunch of great movies, and just look at 2019 as a great year, and also even 2010. James Animations, I didn't like Black Swan, and I heard it's not for everyone. Apollo, I saw Black Swan for the first time a couple of months ago, and I loved it. It definitely improved for the year for me. I also used to love Salt, even if quality-wise is not a good. Salt's a fun movie as well. I like Salt. Hey Zach, Brandon Ortiz. Hey man, Jojo Rabbit's my favorite of 2019 for now. It's a great movie. I love Jojo Rabbit. It's one of those movies though that I really hope it gets a Best Picture nomination, because I actually think there are ways to get that. I honestly think it could win Best Picture. It was getting pushed a little bit harder. But I actually think it's going to come down to The Irishman or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Honestly, I thought 2019 was the best of the decade. Portrait of a Lady on Fire alone made it the best. I didn't get to see it. I wish I could have. It came nowhere in Arizona, and I didn't get to see it. Sadly, I didn't even get a screener for it. It really much sucked, so I hope I get to check that one out soon. Your opinion on The Fanatic. Now, I didn't get to finish The Fanatic. It's terrible. It's terrible. Ugh, not good. I'm surprised 2019 isn't your first. There was the but again, I need to marinate it on a little bit more. Joker's my favorite movie of 2019. Surprised the hell out of me. Great. I mean, honestly, it's a great year for film. 2019 was stacked, but still not my favorite year. Little Women might be my favorite, along with Parasite of 2019. Parasite, you mentioned it. Parasite's an excellent movie. It made my top 25 of the decade. Little Women is a big surprise. The second viewing of that movie really much improved for me, and I was quite surprised in that factor. We need to see how the movies from 2019 age before we can rank that year. You are right in that, and that's kind of why it's kind of in the middle right now. Paulo, I felt like the good movies of 2019 were so good, but it also had a lot of disappointing movies I was looking forward to. Yeah, and that's every year. Honey Boy kind of disappointed me this year. I hyped myself so much of it, going to have it watch it again. Donnie, I remember seeing the movie with you at the Scottsdale Film Festival, and I have to say, if you haven't seen it again, I do recommend checking it out. For some reason, the second viewing of that made me like it even more, and I love the inside look into Shia LaBeouf's mind. And the fact that film is not getting talked about at all for Oscars or anything is quite disappointing. The Tatermeister podcast. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, this is the new podcast, the Popecast, guys. Again, if you guys are new here, smack that like and subscribe button as hard as you can, and let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below in the comments. How would you guys rank these years? Go watch The Imitation Game. I do need to. Avengers Endgame is my favorite movie of 2019. You know, and you know what? I really liked Avengers Endgame. I thought Avengers Endgame was a really good movie, a great conclusion. I think the first act is perfect. I think the third act is some of the best third act in any comic book film. The middle act's my only issue. That's it. There's a couple plot conveniences too that are very jarring, especially on rewatches for me. But I still really liked what they did with Endgame and everything in its entirety. Ford v Ferrari is my favorite of 2019. Ford v Ferrari is a great movie. I don't disagree with you. I love that movie. I'm actually excited enough. I'm actually going to be able to go see Parasite again later today with one of my friends and my grandma, and I'm really much excited about that because I loved Parasite, and I can't wait to experience it with like two of like the closest people in my life. So that's fun. Let's get back to my list now. Coming at my number 5 is going to be 2016. I gotta make sure. Sometimes my handwriting is quite terrible. But yeah, no, my number 5 is going to be 2016, which 2016 was, I mean, it's a great year for filmmaking as well. It's one of the ones that really stuck out to me. Arrival is one of my favorite films, and I know some people call me a cop-out for picking all Denis Villeneuve's films for like my top 10 or my top 25 of the decade. If I had to pick one, it would be Arrival. I think Arrival is his best made film. It's the one film from his list that has made me cry endearingly, and it has one of the best twists ever. Zootopia is one of the best animated films. La La Land, I'm not a major fan of musicals. They can win me over, and La La Land won me over. And some people will say, well, it's not really a musical. And I agree with that because I think the best part about that is the way that the story is. All the ups is all the heavy musical parts. And then when it goes down, it's just okay. And it makes you feel okay, and it kind of gets in that part. I think La La Land's incredible. Moonlight's a great film, fascinating film. Still prefer Beer Street over it. Deadpool, it's one of the most rewatchable films for me. I saw it every single weekend. It was in theaters 3 times opening weekend. And I just love Deadpool. It's my favorite comic. It's one of my favorite comic book films of this decade. It didn't make my top. I think it made my top 3 at least. But there's something about Deadpool that just stuck out to me the most, and it was everything I wanted from the character and more. Civil War was a great one. Weirdly enough, though, on rewatches, Civil War kind of drops down for me a bit. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. A lot of people think this is their favorite Star Wars film. For me, it's top 7. It's good. I like it, but I like all Star Wars movies. Manchester by the Sea. Some of the best performances of this decade. Jungle Book was a good little live-action remake. One of the ones that actually made me notice, hey, you could do these. Hell or High Water, very underrated. Doctor Strange, I thought was an underrated comic book film. Hail Caesar, I actually like this Coen Brothers film. I don't know why, but I like it. Finding Dory, disappointing. Ghostbusters, I'm in the minority. I don't think it's that bad, guys. Don't hate on me. Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, is incredible. Maybe not incredible, but I really much like it more. I like the tone that they're going for. 10 Cloverfield Lane's great. Patterson's great. Sausage Party, one of my most anticipated films of that year. I laughed a lot. Everybody Wants Some is a freaking great little spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. The Nice Guys is perfection. One of my favorite films of the decade. Don't Breathe was one of my favorite horror films of the decade. This was a fascinating year. Hacksaw Ridge. Silence. I always say this. I think this is one of Martin Scorsese's most underrated movies, and I think this film would have been a masterpiece if it was made by Netflix, because it felt like the last 30 minutes was completely montaged through, but I knew if it was Netflix, he would have been able to make a 3-hour-and-a-half epic like he did with The Irishman. Your Name, I think, also came out this year. That's another great one. Star Trek Beyond was great. Sing Street, actually one of the movies that I forgot of this decade. Probably would have made my top 25. And I'm pissed that I missed it when I was going through making the list. But that's what happens. Midnight Special is really good. Nocturnal Animals. Love Nocturnal Animals. I just, so dark, so fucked up. The Accountant was underrated. Let's see. You know, Captain Fantastic was good. But also this year had Independence Resurgence. Not good. Also had Suicide Squad. Not good. Also had X-Men Apocalypse. Not good. You know, you go through this list, there aren't great ones. But you also had Train to Busan, Hush, Autopsy of Jane Doe, Ouija Origin of Evil. Very surprising sequel. Didn't expect for it to be that great, but it was good. It was good. Neon Demon's another great one. The Purge election year went back down the drain. Raw was good. Split gave us that big secret. And honestly, one of the films that quite surprised me of this year was Blair Witch Project, or Blair Witch. We didn't know we were getting another Blair Witch movie, but we got one, and it was really fascinating to see the least. And I think if you're not a fan of Blair Witch, I don't think this film is for you. But at the same time, I don't really like the first one, but I like found footage. I'm a little bit of a sucker for those. Coming in at my number 4 now is going to be 2013. Now, this might be a surprising year for you. One of the reasons being, well, the biggest reason being my favorite film of all time is in this year, and that's Wolf of Wall Street. One of my favorite MCU films is Guardians of the Galaxy. That's also in this year. Winter Soldier came out this year. Edge of Tomorrow, Grand Budapest Hotel, Gone Girl, Interstellar. I mean, this year is fucking stacked. This year is flippin' stacked to almighty parts of all of it. And actually, 20, or wait, I'm actually reading from the wrong list. I'm so dumb. I can't read my own handwriting. I apologize, guys. But yeah, my number 4 is 2013, which has the likes of 12 Years a Slave, Gravity, Man of Steel, love Man of Steel, Inside Llewyn Davis, American Hustle, Wolf of Wall Street, Prisoners, Pacific Rim, Gatsby. Prisoners was really good. Prisoners was fucking great. Catching Fire, the best Hunger Games movie. Monsters University, underrated. This wasn't a great year for animated films, though, if I can say so myself. Spectacular Now was great. Fruitvale Station was great. Snowpiercer. I actually like Pain and Gain. Might be top 3 Michael Bay films. It's not really saying much, though. Insidious 2, I think that's an underrated film. I think it's the best Insidious film. Evil Dead was a really good horror remake. The Conjuring was fantastic. Oculus was great. Mac Flanagan can really do no wrong in my book. This was a really good year, and I think it's gotten so high for me because it has films like This Is the End, Wolf of Wall Street, which are 2 of my most rewatched films of all time. You also looked at The Conjuring, one of my favorite films of all time. Man of Steel. This year is really much it's really grown on me more, and I would even go as far as to say I'm pretty sure Whiplash came out this year as well, if I'm not wrong. I could be completely wrong though in that whole entirety. Let me make sure. I think Whiplash came out this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Did Whiplash come out this year? Did it? Did it not? Did it or did it not? We will find out real fast. But yeah, this was an interesting year for film. No, Whiplash was 2014. Okay, apologies on that. But yeah, so it has films like This Is the End. It has films like Wolf of Wall Street, which are 2 of my most rewatched films of all time. The World's End was really entertaining. The Conjuring, The Prisoners, Man of Steel. I think it's those small little segments that really bump up. Plus, Iron Man 3 came out that year, and it's completely underrated. You guys did not like that film as much as I did. Captain Phillips. This was just one of those years that really stuck out to me when I was going over my list. And also one of the most underrated films of this year as well was also Her. I think Her is absolutely one of the best films ever made. It's personally one of my favorites, and one of the ones that stuck with me so much throughout its entirety, and it's throughout its whole entire run, and it's one of the ones that really stuck with me the most, that I really much just appreciate overall, and I hope you guys do as well. Now, jumping back into the live chat, let's see what you guys think. Again, I will be answering any of your questions, so as I'm going through, leave some live Q&A questions in down below, and if you guys are joining in the chat for the first time, make sure again to hit that like button. So Jaren talks movies. I bet we have the same favorite year. We honestly might, because my favorite year is, there's a lot of great movies in there. Tatermeister, Denis is overrated, but dude, I completely disagree. Denis is the best filmmaker right now. I loved it because we revisited the most iconic Marvel moments. I think the middle back was for nostalgia. I understand the nostalgia part of Endgame. I just thought it was it wasn't bad. I liked it. It just felt very slow, and that's kind of where I got down to it. Alexander AB, have you seen the short movie In a Heartbeat here on YouTube? It's a LGBT short movie, and it's a real tearjerker. It lasts around 5 minutes. I haven't, but if you message me it on Twitter, I will check it out. Mary Lou B, incredible it is. You're incredible, Mary Lou. I love Silence, but damn, that movie is long. It is long, and it's a brutal movie. It's hard for me to watch. What do you think of Allied and Eddie the Eagle? Now, I actually never saw Allied, but Eddie the Eagle I thought was very underrated in that year, and I wish I would have seen it in theaters. The Wolf of Wall Street is tied with Whiplash and Glorious Bastards as my favorite films. Man, I mean, Glorious Bastards is incredible. It's in my top 30 probably of all time. Whiplash is probably up there as well. Is Dallas Buyers Club from 2013? Dallas Buyers Club is from 2013. Very good movie, just not one I've ever wanted to watch ever again. Mary Lou B. Fruitvale Station is top 5 of the decade for me. Absolutely agree with you, and it would. I'm pissed because there are certain films, like when you're looking up if that year, it doesn't come up with, and I'm pissed because that would have probably made my top 25 as well. Fruitvale Station made me cry, and that really put Cooler and Michael B. Jordan on the map for me. Because Iron Man 3 is BS. You could skip it altogether. Dude, totally disagree. I think Iron Man 3 was a great progression for Tony Stark, and I think it's one of the most entertaining Marvel movies. I need to rewatch Whiplash. I don't recall it being as good as everyone says it is. It's one of those movies that you should check it out again. Brandon Ortiz, which movies do you think will get a Best Picture nomination or Best Visual Effects nomination this year? So I think Endgame for sure. I actually think Spider-Man Far From Home has a chance. Those are the two for sure that are sticking out the most to me. Let me go back to 2019 as a year. I need to see what other films came out because I'm kind of like blanking. I would hope Ad Astra, but Ad Astra isn't even in the shortlist, which is complete bullshit. Same with Godzilla, but so I mean, Far From Home, Endgame. That's really it. I mean, those are the two that I for sure. I think Detective. If it was my personal list, it would be Detective Pikachu, Godzilla, Endgame, Spider-Man, and probably Shazam for visual effects. Maybe even throw Lion King in there, I guess. It was very photorealistic, so I guess take out Shazam. But honestly, the fact that Ad Astra isn't in there is complete bullshit. That's just the truth. Jumping back into the chat. I love her. That one did make it on my decade list. It made it onto mine too as well. Did you see What If, the Daniel Radcliffe movie? Surprisingly enough, I actually just saw that, I think, over a year and a half ago. I watched it at one of my friend's house, and it was really good. Thomas, Baby Yoda's taking over the highway, and The Last Jedi is underrated. I like The Last Jedi. But I like all Star Wars movies, so whatever. A Letterboxd account would help. I actually do have a Letterboxd account, but you are right to do research instead of going over Google. I agree with you on that. I'm kind of still new to Letterboxd. I kind of use it as a way to track stuff that I'm seeing. What's the next trailer you're waiting for? The next trailer I'm waiting for is New Mutants, which comes out Monday. I work at 3:30 a.m. though, so I'll have to, and I'm buying my Sundance tickets like literally right afterwards, so that trailer reaction will most likely come out in the afternoon on Monday. But I'm starting to do more trailer reactions even when after they come out because a lot of you guys still want the content, and I'm really looking forward to New Mutants. Why is Joker so good? I haven't seen it. Joker's a good movie. I think his performance is incredible though. Last Jedi is garbage. Iron Man 3 is filler. I mean, Age of Ultron just retconned all environment. You know what? We're not getting into that discussion. As a second act of a 3-act play, Last Jedi failed. Your opinion, different than mine. Joker's a legitimate masterpiece. The performance is a masterpiece for me. The film was good. Looks like we're getting the original cut of Mutants. I'm very curious to see if they have the thing at the end of that. I'm really curious. My theory on New Mutants, though, before we jump back into my list, my big theory on New Mutants is that it will tie into the MCU. I think you have these talented actors, you have this talented director, and there's a big thing that's supposedly supposed to happen at the end of New Mutants that I personally think, I mean, I'm really much saying this, but I personally think will actually change. I don't want to spoil it because it came out of the test screen. I don't know if it's true or not, but if it is, I'm going to fucking shit my pants if I see it in the theaters. I'll just leave it there. Going back to my list, let's get down to my number 3. And my number 3 of this whole entire thing is 2017. I think 2017 is one of the best aged years for filmmaking, and it's one of the ones that truly captured me. It was actually the one year that I started really pushing my channel and doing more movie reviews, and you had Last Jedi this year, like we were just talking about, but that didn't even make my top, 25 of that year. Even going through Get Out, Dunkirk, Call Me By Your Name, Lady Bird, Blade Runner 2049, The Shape of Water, Good Time, The Florida Project, A Ghost Story, Logan, Phantom Thread, 3 Billboards, The Big Sick, War for the Planet of the Apes, The Disaster Artist, Mother, underrated, Coco, Spider-Man Homecoming, Alien Covenant, I, Tonya, My God, It Comes at Night, Paddington 2, John Wick 2, King Arthur, Mudbound, Wind River, Girls Trip, Ingrid Goes West, Justice League. Just kidding. Lego Batman, Kong Skull Island was fine. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tale, Valerian. I mean, honestly, this was a fucking perfect year for filmmaking. It's one of my favorite years for film because all these films have encaptured some way of essence that has made me go back and want to rewatch many of those years. And I know someone's just said Valerian was awful. I liked Valerian. I thought it was fun. I won't disagree though that Dane DeHaan was totally miscast in that whole entire movie. But besides that movie, I kind of read it at the very end. Just kind of going over, you know, so many fucking great movies in this year. Call Me by Your Name is one of the best films of this decade. It's a romance movie that I never expected to fall in love with, but I did from a lot of it because of. It's a movie I never felt like I was going to be able to relate to, but I left the theater in fucking tears. And one of the movies that I never expected to want to go back and rewatch, but it devastates me every single time I want to watch it. And Guadagnino has talked about doing a sequel, and I want a sequel. I think it deserves one. And I think in 10 years we will have that sequel with older casted actors, of course, with Timothée Chalamet being older, and same with Armie Hammer. It'll be a perfect time to kind of revisit it. And it's just one of those movies that there are some cringy moments to it, but it's one of those movies that just stuck with me so much. Get Out was perfect. It's a horror film that when I first saw it, I didn't know how to feel on it. And then you just rewatch it and you like it more. And you rewatch it again, you notice Peele's a perfect director, and it's just a great movie. Dunkirk, a movie that I liked the first time I saw, but was kind of iffy. Saw it again and loved it. Nolan's an incredible filmmaker, and the perfect thing about Dunkirk is how it puts you in to the scenario. It's not focused on plot or anything. It really puts you right in to the scenario and everything in that same thing. Lady Bird is a brilliant coming-of-age film that Greta Gerwig directed, and honestly, any of the if you ever get time to look up the behind the scenes on Greta Gerwig's direction, she is some of my favorite directing right now. Blade Runner 2049, a masterpiece. A little too long, but it's a masterpiece. I appreciate the original Blade Runner, but I don't love it. Blade Runner 2049 was everything I wanted it to be. Shape of Water, what can I say? I was so happy when it won Best Picture. Baby Driver, one of the best action films of the decade. Good Time, Robert Pattinson should have been nominated and won for the Oscar. Florida Project is great. Ghost Story was a film that was more focused on time and what's so important about time and something just special about it. Logan, honestly, if it wasn't for Spider-Verse, it kind of goes back and forth with being one of the best comic book films ever made. I think it's even better than The Dark Knight, personally. I think we are going to look back on Logan on 10 years and think of it as a classic. Because that's what's going to be crazy is all these films, 10 to 20 years from now, we're going to be looking back at some of these classics. And I think Logan's going to be a classic. Going over some other years, I think Irishman. I think, surprisingly, Uncut Gems, I could actually see being studied in film classes. Spider-Verse, Mandy, Hereditary, man, there's just Zootopia, Silence. There's going to be so many films that really we look back on, but I think Logan's going to be one of those. Thor Ragnarok was fun, but not my personal favorite. Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri is another one of those, very much going to be one of those films that we study in film class. Big Sick, my favorite my favorite film of 2017, one of the most passionate films I am about. If you haven't seen The Big Sick, go and see it. I remember I went and saw this on a limb. I got off work and said, hey, this film's finally in theaters. I'm going to go check it out. Saw it, loved it, fell in love with it, absolutely adored it. A War for the Planet of the Apes, one of the best conclusions to a trilogy. Coco, what a big surprise. You hear the Pixar's making a Day of the Dead movie, and you watch it, and it makes you just bawl your fucking eyes out. Mother, I love my theater experience with this because everyone in the theater hated it except me. When the movie ended, I remember some guy got up and said, what the fuck? And I said, yeah, what the fuck? I agree. I loved it. Logan Lucky, very underrated that year. I, Tonya, one of my favorite films also as the decade. Really much stuck with me. I think Margot Robbie actually absolutely was not given enough love for that year. She should have won every single award. And even the film should have won more awards, even been nominated. It Comes at Night, another one of those ones, very much diverse. Loved it. Alien Covenant, I hate saying this, but it might be my favorite Alien film. I've never been the biggest fan of Alien, but Prometheus and Alien actually made me care about this world. And that's very, very minority opinion on this, but it's the one Alien film I care to ever rewatch. This is just a great year, and I love 2017 for what it is. But let's jump right into, or actually, before we get to my number 2, let's jump back into the live chat, see what questions you guys have as well. A lot of you guys are saying New Mutants looks pointless. Why make it? It was already made before Dark Phoenix. So you got to put it out. I actually think it's going to be surprising to people. I absolutely think Fox just didn't know what to do with the movie, and I think it's going to be quite surprising. New Mutants could start the X-Men for the MCU. Been saying it. Hey, do you guys like Frozen 2? Frozen 2 was fine. I didn't love it. Alien Covenant was underrated. Hell yeah, it was. Get Out was overrated. Totally disagree. I think Get Out is a perfect, it's so subtle in its execution. I cannot believe I have not seen Call Me By Your Name or read the book and loved it, but the movie just keeps passing through the cracks. You definitely need to check it out. It's one of the best films of this decade. Love Christopher Nolan, me too. I just looked at the Oscar shortlist and Godzilla and Spider-Man aren't there. Spider-Man isn't even there. That's shocking. I knew Godzilla wasn't going to be there. I already saw that one, but that was more on my list of if it could. I don't know what the fuck they're going to nominate. They're going to nominate Cats because they do all fucking walk out. Plenty of films I can't wait to show my kids in the future. Same here, man. I just can't wait. I just love showing people films. Like, I love showing my friends films, and I love talking movies. That's why I made this YouTube channel, because I have never gone, like, this is my way of talking movies with people and with you guys, and that's why I love talking movies. Alita Battle Angel, Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, Cats, Gemini Man, The Irishman, The Lion King, 1917, Star Wars, The Rise of Terminator, all those. These are the films that made it into the shortlist. Okay, so going from there, I think Alita for sure. I think Endgame. I can't believe Captain Marvel made it in there. I think Star Wars. I think 1917, and honestly, probably Lion King. These are the films that made it in the shortlist. Thank you for giving me that. Which of these do you think has the chance? So Endgame, Alita, Skywalker, 1917, and it's either gonna go to The Irishman or Gemini Man. Which of these films do you... Oh, yeah, I already read that. Brandon, we are controversialists. I like Rise of Skywalker and Terminator. I like it, too. Power Rangers was way better than I expected. I love Molly's Game and Gifted, too. Molly's Game is still one I have not seen. Gifted, really like that film. And Power Rangers was really good. Very surprising movie. Did you see Ghost in the Shell a few years? Yeah, I liked Ghost in the Shell. It was a fun little movie. I've never rewatched it. Like, I own it, but I haven't gone back and rewatched it. The anime is definitely the best version of it, but it was a fun movie. Just hopping in to say, hey, Zach, happy for your success. Hopefully you gain a ton more this year. Honestly, thank you so much, man. This is going to be a big year. But again, all that support comes from you guys, and really in a general... all this love and all my success will come from you guys. So again, just a big thank you and shout out if you've ever watched one of my videos. Hit that like button, commented, subscribed, all that stuff. I'm planning on bringing you guys a lot of content this year, and I can't wait to do it for you guys. If dates stay the same, which one will you see first? John Wick 4 or Matrix 4? So I'll probably be very lucky and be able to see both early because I'm impressed. But if it wasn't for that and I was going opening night, I would probably say Matrix, because even though I don't love the second and third Matrix, I think they're fine. The first Matrix is one of the best sci-fi action films of all time. And wanting to see what they're going to do with the Matrix 4 is just fascinating. I've actually heard some rumors of stuff about it, and I'm really impressed, or really excited for it. But at the same time, John Wick 3 was incredible, and John Wick 4 looks incredible. I don't believe those two films will stay on that date, though. I think one's going to probably either move up a couple of weeks or move down a couple of weeks. It's just too stacked of a year. Brandon Trees, what are your thoughts on Under the Skin? Love Under the Skin. I think Scarlett Johansson, I think that proved like that she can be an excellent actor, and I think Lost in Translation is another one, and Marriage Story, of course, Jojo Rabbit. What's your opinion on The Social Network by David Fincher? Maybe my top 25 of the decade. That's all I gotta say. So going into my number 2 now is going to be, I kind of already spoiled some of this, but it's going to be 2014. 2014 was a fantastic year for film. Again, I already started reading off some of these, but it features my favorite MCU film, Guardians of the Galaxy. Lego Movie is such a fascinating movie. Interstellar, Gone Girl, Grand Budapest Hotel, Edge of Tomorrow, The Imitation Game. I know someone in the live chat was talking about that one earlier. Still haven't seen it. My favorite Planet of the Apes movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Nightcrawler. The fact that he wasn't fucking nominated is insane. The fact that he should have won is even more insane. Birdman, love Birdman. Whiplash, American Sniper, 22 Jump Street, Fury, Inherent Vice, Big Hero 6 stole my heart away. Love that movie. Um, we also got Transformers: The Age of Extinction though. Wasn't the best, but The Guest came out this year as well. Another great one. Nonstop was a little bit of a fun one. Foxcatcher proved how great of an actor Steve Carell and Channing Tatum were, but also really great Mark Ruffalo. That's a great movie if you've never seen Foxcatcher. Unbroken, The Raid 2, arguably one of the best action films of all time. Theory of Everything, Chef. Do never watch that movie when you are hungry. I remember I was babysitting someone and I was very hungry. Started watching it and I was starving. The Best Purge movie came out this year as well. Neighbors, really funny comedy. Let's see. Trying to see what else this came out this year. The ones that really stick out to me though, and the reason it kind of makes it my number 2 is because of Gone Girl, Whiplash, Nightcrawler, Birdman, Interstellar, these Grand Budapest Hotel. It's movies like those that stuck out to me so much when I was doing my top 25 of the decade list that it came into my number 2 because all these films marinated so well. And I can't count on my fingers how many times I've watched Guardians or how many times I've watched Nightcrawler or Birdman or even Gone Girl. They're some of my favorite films, and honestly, when it comes to David Fincher, The Gone Girl is one of my favorite films of all time. Even though I do think Social Network is still his best made film, it's just incredible. And also one of my favorite films of the decade is Ex Machina, and it came out this year. And I mean, if you've never seen Ex Machina, you really should. It's such a fascinating movie in the way that they play around with AI and all that sorts of stuff. I just get goosebumps thinking about that movie. But coming to my number 1, it's fucking 2015. 2015 is the best year for film this decade. Just reading off, Mad Max Fury Road brought back Mad Max into the limelight. It's one of my favorite. It's my favorite action film of all time. Brought in Inside Out. I love Inside Out. To death. It brings me to tears, and a lot of it I can really much relate to the imaginary friend stuff in there that just hurts me. Force Awakens brought Star Wars back. It's my second favorite Star Wars film of all time. I love Force Awakens and everything that's about it. Spotlight is incredible. It's the fact that it won Best Picture made me so happy. Even though I really wanted Mad Max to win, I was so happy when Spotlight did. The Martian, fantastic. Rogue Nation, great. And Mission Impossible film. Sicario, another great Denis Villeneuve film. One of the strongest and most thrilling experiences in the theater. That dinner sequence is incredible. Creed brought back another popular franchise, but in great fashion. The Revenant. DiCaprio finally won his Oscar for that film. Trainwreck, very underrated comedy. Didn't expect to love it that much. The Big Short, Adam McKay shows that he's a great director. Hateful Eight, Tarantino comes in. I think this is a great another film. Straight Outta Compton, great biopic. Man from U.N.C.L.E., great little film in there. The Night Before, one of my favorite Christmas movies now. Steve Jobs. This was actually my personal pick. As happy as I was for DiCaprio to win, I actually thought Michael Fassbender should have won for Steve Jobs. Room, oh my god, just when you talk about Room, it's one of the best films of that year. And Southpaw. I thought Southpaw was completely underrated. Jurassic World also came back that year. Some people don't love it. Some people do. One of the best theater experiences. Age of Ultron also came out that year. Ant-Man, big surprising. One of my favorite MCU films. Oh my god. Bridge of Spies. Brooklyn, I loved. If you've never seen Brooklyn, you want to see where Saoirse Ronan really got her first. This is where I noticed her first. This is it. Black Mass, Johnny Depp comes in. Fury 7, rest in peace, Paul Walker. It was a very heartbreaking film. The Lobster was great in that whole entirety. Chappie, people shit on it. I don't mind it. The Gift, really, really underrated film. Can't wait to see what Jason Bateman does next for his directing. The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan had to come back this year. And, there weren't great films either. You can look at Jupiter Ascending, Minions. I know some people hate Chappie. Spy was another good film. Everest was fine. It was a good theater experience for sure. But a lot of these movies are the movies that have stuck with me so much throughout the years. And some of the ones that I just love rewatching. Burnt was kind of underrated too. Really like that one. A lot of people forget about that one. McFarland's USA kind of hit me because I was a cross-country varsity star. Mississippi Grind's really underrated. A Legend, I think, has one of Tom Hardy's best performances. Focus was fun, but really when it comes down to the Peanuts movie as well. Can't forget about the Peanuts movie. But when it comes down to like some of those main first ones, I know like we had Fantastic Four as well. That was not good. But when it comes down to Mad Max, Inside Out, Spotlight, Creed, Force Awakens, The Martian, Straight Outta Compton. I mean, all these films make my list, and three of those, I've just rewatched some of these so many times. It is my favorite years through the decades and through film in general. And even though some of these films aren't even in my top 10, they're some of the films that I thought shaped this decade of film, 2010 to 2019. And I have to be honest, when you're looking at all these films and everything that happens to go about it, these films mattered so much to me. And when I was going through, I was like, this is the most stacked year. Because I went back and I'm like, if I had to make my top 10 list, which years were the hardest? Which were the years that I rewatched films the most? And 2015 was the year that so many films could have made that list. And it was one of the hardest ones, too. And it was also one of the years that I finally started really getting into filmmaking. And like, I've always loved film, but it was one of the years that I truly started getting into filmmaking itself, and in all that's entirety. So let me jump through the live chat. We're gonna go through some more Q&A questions right there. But yeah, 2015 is my favorite year from this decade. And I'm gonna go back through real fast and also go off before we actually get to that live chat. Let me jump in and tell you guys, like, again, if you guys are joining us in the middle. So my number 10 was 2011. Big standouts from there was Warrior, 50/50, First Class. Jumping into my number 9 will be 2012, which has films like The Master, Django, Silver Linings Playbook, Argo, Looper, Chronicle, and End of Watch. Jumping into my number 8 would be 2018, which happens to have Black Panther, The Favorite, Spider-Verse, Annihilation, Hereditary, Suspiria, and Beale Street, and even Mandy, which was really good. Jumping into my number 7 would be 2010, which features Toy Story 3, Inception, The Social Network, Shutter Island, How to Train Your Dragon, and The Town. Those are kind of some of my personal favorite picks. Coming in at my number 8 would be, or not my number 8, I already said my number 8. My number 6 would be, 2019 last year, which actually could probably even boost up. Parasite, Jojo Rabbit, The Irishman, Toy Story 4, Waves, Uncut Gems, 1917, Midsummer, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Booksmart, Long Shot, Us, great films in there. Moving into my number 5 would be 2016, which featured La La Land, Arrival, Zootopia, Deadpool, The Nice Guy, Sing Street, Hacksaw Ridge, all great movies in that entirety. Moving into my number 4 would be 2013, which would be Man of Steel, Wolf of Wall Street, Her, Inside Llewyn Davis, Prisoners, Fruitvale Station, and The Conjuring. Coming in at my number 3 now would be 2017, which featured the likes of Get Out, Dunkirk, Wonder Woman, Call Me By Your Name, The Shape of Water, Good Time, Logan, I, Tonya, Coco, Blade Runner 2049, and of course The Big Sick. Coming in at my number 2 would be the 2014, which is Gone Girl, Interstellar, Nightcrawler, Whiplash, Birdman, Fury, Grand Budapest Hotel, Edge of Tomorrow. Great movies in there. And of course, my number 1, like I just mentioned, was 2015, which had the likes of Mad Max, Force Awakens, Inside Out, Spotlight, Sicario, Creed, Straight Outta Compton, Room, Steve Jobs, Trainwreck, The Big Short, The Night Before. Just a great year for film. It's a great year for film. I love films, and I'm so excited to see what this decade has in store for not just me, not just this channel, but in general, filmmaking in general, and all that sorts of stuff. Wanting to kind of jump back in to it as well and see what you guys are saying in the live chat. Again, if you have any last minute questions, do put them in there. And if you guys are maybe are trying to check this out, the Popecast will be on audio only. If you go into the description, or audio too, if you go into the description and look up the Good Boys podcast, you'll find them down there. There's an iTunes and a Spotify link. I'll be putting these podcast links in those same entire ones in the same entire way, because I do want to provide you guys with the best content possible. And that's how I'm going to do it, guys. So do look forward to that, of course. And yeah, so let's just keep continuing into this. Jumping into this to just kind of get to the rest of your guys' stuff. Edge of Tomorrow is criminally underrated. Really much is. I can't wait. Hopefully we get that sequel. Sakari, I'll Buy the Popcorn. Gone Girl, Mad Max Fury Road are 2 films that I had to rewatch a few times before I really appreciate it. Mad Max made it into my decade of the list. Yeah, I totally agree. Made it into mine as well. Inside Out's great. You can never go wrong with a movie with Roger Deakins behind the camera. I mean, Goldfinch came out this year, and he was behind that one, but it was a beautiful film to look at. Star Wars: The Force Awakens, Mad Max: Fury Road, The Revenant, Jurassic World, Furious 7, X-Men: Days of Future. Days of Future Past also came out in 2014 or 2015. That was a great year. First Class really redeemed the X-Men franchise. Agree. Mary Lou, thank you for your time out of your day to go live and talk film with all of us. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for joining me. Mary Lou's actually one of my Patreon supporters. Give a shout out to her in the live chat. Yeah, lots of great films over this list, and really as the first kind of segment back into the Popecast, this is a great way. Again, it's more laid back, more chilled back, kind of just talking movies, and this is my way of talking movies with you guys. So look forward to more Popecast soon. Again, I'm going to be trying to do this at least once a week. Each week will be different. Probably for me, probably my thing about this whole podcast will be I've discussed that I'm going to talk subjects that I want to. This is one of the ones that I wanted to be the first one doing it. But with that said, I wanted the next ones will more be news oriented. When more movie news starts coming out, I'll be discussing my favorite topics from the week. More news content coming up ahead. And I actually do have another video that me and my friend I've started putting together that we're going to be, I don't know when it'll officially come out. Probably after I come back from Sundance, we'll probably do our first episode. But it's one of those, there's so many different opinions. Now, I'm more a film critic. I can appreciate film for what it is, even if I don't love it. And there are films that are terrible that I just can't get into because I'm very cynical about that type of stuff sometimes. She's different. She's more of the typical normal audience moving going. So we're going to do a podcast where we both watch a movie that we've both seen, and either one of us loves it, one of us hates it, or it's vice versa. One of us loves it and the other person hates it. And I think the first film we're going to be talking about doing is Hereditary, because she hates it. She fucking despises it. I love it. So it'll be a little bit of a fun discussion in there, and of course get your guys' point of view on that whole thing too. Before I get going, I see there are a couple more in here. Is that Lotso from Toy Story 3 in your room? Yes, he's right up there. This is my whole Toy Story shelf. Planning on doing a couple of vlogging videos. I like doing room tours in the beginning of the year, and in a sense I want to show off some of my stuff. And I also want to show Tater Meister, is Leonardo DiCaprio your favorite actor? Because he is pretty much mine. DiCaprio is like top 5 for me. If I'm talking about like my favorite actors, Jake Gyllenhaal is probably my favorite actor of all time right now. But my top 5 like working today would be DiCaprio, Gyllenhaal, Phoenix, Pattinson, and then probably Adam Driver for my top 5. And then Tom Hardy barely makes it out just because he hasn't done too many like excellent movies lately. I still think he's a great actor. Do you have a PO box? I'll send you the Imitation Game. I don't have a PO box yet. Maybe if a lot of people start requesting it and they want to send me stuff, maybe we'll get into there. Thomas Garnett, that Toy Story collection is awesome. Thank you so much, guys. But really, let's say thank you, guys. If you're catching this later after the live stream, thank you so much for watching this. Make sure to comment down below. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this decade. What is your ranking? Let's talk about it down below. Thank you guys again for joining this live stream. I had a blast doing it. I love doing it. Doing it in a different type of style, more laid back, more just chilling, no editing, and all sorts of stuff like that. I do want to give a big thank you to all of you guys who joined me during the live chat. I had a great little thing in that whole entire thing. I loved going through this list. The Popecast will only get better from here, and the Good Boys podcast is also coming back. I'm planning on bringing a lot more podcast content to this, more vlogging content to this, and in general, more content to where I can just live and be me and show you guys a little bit more of my personality, while at the same time bringing you guys the best of all my reviews that I love doing. I wouldn't be here without you guys. I'm at 10,700 subscribers. It's great. And we're only going to go up from here. So thank you guys again so much for watching this. And of course, until next time, you guys make sure to stay classy and look out for more content coming up soon.